Kale has achieved superfood status, and from a nutritional standpoint, that reputation is earned. It's extraordinarily nutrient-dense, packed with vitamins A, C, and K, calcium, and powerful glucosinolates, sulfur-containing compounds with documented cancer-protective properties. The antioxidant capacity of kale is genuinely impressive, and it provides these nutrients with very few calories. However, kale regularly appears on high contamination lists, and that's because it faces significant pest pressures that drive intensive pesticide use. Cabbage worms, aphids, and various other insects find kale as appealing as health-conscious humans do. The curly leaves create tremendous surface area, which is great for photosynthesis, but terrible for trapping pesticide residues. Those ruffled edges and deep crevices make thorough washing genuinely difficult. You can rinse kale repeatedly and still have chemicals lodged in the leaf structure. Kale belongs to the Brassica family, which includes cabbage, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. This entire family faces numerous pest challenges requiring frequent chemical interventions in conventional farming. The superfood marketing has led to increased consumption, with people adding kale to smoothies, salads, and various dishes regularly. This frequent, high-volume consumption means accumulated exposure if you're using conventional kale. One pesticide of particular concern found on kale is dactyl, also known as DCPA. This herbicide was recently banned by the EPA over thyroid concerns and potential fetal health risks, yet residues continue to appear on kale because the chemical persists in soil and some crops were already in production when the ban took effect. This illustrates a broader problem. Regulatory action lags behind scientific concern, and environmental persistence means banned chemicals continue causing exposure. The distinction between baby kale and mature kale matters. Baby kale, harvested young, has had less time to accumulate residues from repeated applications, though it's also been exposed to any early season treatments. Mature kale has potentially seen more pesticide applications across its longer growing period. Cooking kale versus eating it raw affects both nutrient retention and pesticide exposure. Heat can break down some pesticides while also degrading some nutrients, particularly vitamin C. The glucosinolates that make kale particularly valuable for cancer prevention are somewhat heat-sensitive, though not entirely destroyed by cooking. Massaging raw kale with oil or acid, a common preparation technique, helps break down tough fibers but doesn't reduce pesticide residues. The juicing and smoothie trend raises particular concerns with kale. When you blend several large kale leaves into a smoothie, you're concentrating whatever's on those leaves into a single beverage. If using conventional kale, that means concentrated pesticide exposure. For anyone drinking kale smoothies regularly, organic kale becomes essentially non-negotiable from a safety standpoint. The organic versus conventional pricing gap for kale is notable. Organic kale typically costs 50 to 100% more than conventional, sometimes even more depending on season and location. For a vegetable that's already somewhat expensive compared to lettuce or cabbage, this premium can be prohibitive for budget-conscious consumers. Practical strategies for kale consumption include rotation with other leafy greens to avoid concentrated exposure to any single crop's contamination profile. Collard greens, Swiss chard, mustard greens, and turnip greens provide similar nutrients with potentially different pesticide profiles. This rotation strategy maintains nutritional variety while distributing risk. For washing kale, soaking in cold water with baking soda for 15 minutes, then rinsing thoroughly while separating the ruffled leaves to expose crevices, removes more surface residues than quick rinsing. However, this won't eliminate systemic pesticides that have been absorbed into the leaf tissue. If you consume kale frequently, particularly raw or in smoothies, the organic investment is justified. If you use kale occasionally in cooked dishes, conventional kale with thorough washing and cooking presents lower risk. For families with children or pregnant women, given kale's high contamination levels and the trend toward frequent consumption, prioritizing organic makes clear sense. The nutrients in kale are valuable, but they're not so unique that you can't get similar benefits from less contaminated greens if organic kale isn't accessible.